So what we learned from all this is that exercise is not only not a very good way to lose weight, it's probably a bad way to lose weight.
So Mark, we have a topic that you've rarely discussed, which is losing excess body fat.
Right.
But what's interesting is new information has come to light, or new understandings.
Right.
I'm especially interested in this compensation theory of exercise and the constrained model of energy expenditure, which suggests that our calorie burning is constrained, is limited. Even if we exercise like crazy,
Right.
we're going to bump up against this upper limit. And that goes back to Mark Sisson talking many years ago about this concept of metabolic flexibility and how to get the job done
Right.
when the prevailing notions of the exercise, fitness industry, and diet industry that you can work off the
Right,
hot
right,
fudge
yeah.
sundae you just ate have been refuted by science.
Yeah, so the first thing I'd say is, the old paradigm of calories in versus calories out is way too simplistic. It's much more complicated than that. And so I always talked about calories burned versus calories stored. And, the body is set up to store excess energy, excess calories, whatever you consume in excess, to store that as fuel for future use. That's the design. That's the evolutionary design of the human body. And we're very good at doing that. We've all been quite good at that over the years. And then by the same token, we also have the genetic capacity and the recipe by which we can take stored calories and combust them for fuel to get through times of scarcity, which is the human history over the millennia. So this theory of this compensation theory, the concept that you could somehow, a la Biggest Loser, take a day or two or every day for the 6-week program and burn off 6,000 calories a day and your fat will melt away like that, doesn't hold water. It's not an accurate assessment of how the human body works. There is a limit to which we can burn calories in one day. Now you can say, well, some people who do multi-day races, do a triathlon, do long ultra triathlons, they're going to burn 5,000-6,000 calories maybe over that period of time. Yeah, that's one day. And then they're going to pay for it for the next couple of days, right? So they're going to dig a hole so deep for themselves that it will take them literally weeks to recover from.
Of just slow, lowered, toning down
Right.
other metabolic functions, especially reproduction, repair, growth, and locomotion are a zero-sum game. I believe that's a Poncer quote.
Yeah.
And so if you're locomoting like crazy, like in the Tour de France,
Yeah.
your immune system's suppressed.
You pay for it in other areas.
The female athlete with the cessation of menstruation is the best example of toning down the reproductive dial to their detriment, but they're trying to set a world record, so they're going to take that chance.
I lived in Menlo Park in the late 70s, early 80s during the heyday of the Stanford women's cross country team. They were one of the best teams in the country. And I remember hearing that in the 4 years that team was together, there was one menstrual cycle among all the women. Again, testament to the amount of hard training they were doing and this cost, this zero-sum game, that whatever you give in one area, you sacrifice in the next. So, where that leaves us is, how best to achieve the kind of linear and well-thought and gentle weight loss to arrive at our ideal body composition, right? And as I said from the beginning, it's really about creating metabolic flexibility. Now, what that means is it's the ability of the body to not just burn carbohydrates as are present as glycogen in the muscles or glucose in the bloodstream, but how to burn stored body fat in times when you don't have access to glucose or there's not a meal for a couple of days. How do you develop this sort of metabolic flexibility, this ability to combust ketones? And for the liver to create ketones from fat, send them to the brain so the brain can use the ketones as a fuel instead of relying on carbohydrate or sugar. And so what happens is this becomes not so much an issue of effort, of energy expenditure in terms of exercise. It's more a reorientation of the metabolic systems that are kind of using a hormonal input as a guideline. So as you reduce your insulin, your ability to store fat decreases, and that's a good thing. And as you reduce insulin, the body's tendency to want to take that fat out of storage and use it as fuel rather than hold on to it increases. So that's a good thing. And as we get in control of insulin, we also, get control of leptin, of ghrelin, of some of the adrenocortical hormones like cortisol, and certainly, epinephrine. So the challenge is, how do we create a dietary program that gives us all the energy we want, that allows us to maintain or build muscle mass, that also encourages us to burn off excess body fat, so we don't carry this excess body fat around with us all the time, that allows us to go through life with a robust immune system so we don't succumb to colds and flu, COVID, so that we don't get sick very often. The idea of exercising to generate heat, to burn calories, to burn off stored body fat, is in many cases is problematic for a lot of people, because the exercise in and of itself increases appetite, especially if you don't burn fat while you're doing that. If you're burning off your stored glycogen, all that happens is you become hungry. Now, you can do this for a couple of days and tough it out, but over the sustainability of that program over 30 days or a year is so difficult that people just give it up.
Oh, well, it's unsustainable because it's going to borrow from those other three aforementioned metabolic and biological functions. So it could even set you backwards if you're exercising inappropriately. There's a quote in a book, I believe it was The Primal Blueprint, where you said, what if this fool's going to try this again tomorrow? I better overeat. And that's our brain and our appetite center getting dysregulated by overly stressful exercise.
So what we learned from all this is that exercise is not only not a very good way to lose weight, it's probably a bad way to lose weight. As witnessed,
there's a soundbite. YouTube.
As witnessed by the number of overweight people who toe the line at a marathon, presumably having trained for this event, and yet still have 25 or 30 extra pounds to lose. So how do you do that? Well, you do that by shifting your diet around very judiciously to sort of mimic what our ancient forebears lived by, which was periods of abundance on occasion and periods of scarcity, which was most of the time. And in order to do that, we just sort of look at the times of day that we choose to eat. As I've said for several years now, one of the biggest issues is we just eat too much food. And so if we can cut back on the amount of food we eat, that would be very helpful. In other words, if we cut back on the amount of calories that we store and allow ourselves to burn off more calories just through normal daily living, that would be a good thing. And one of the best ways to do that is to cut out a meal, to literally get down to 2 or maybe 1 meal a day, and in so doing, to not only have fewer calories throughout the day, but have a longer period of time that you're not eating, where your body is now going, I'm not eating, I'm not getting insulin, I have all this stored body fat, which I could easily burn if I knew how to. And so over time, you develop the capacity to take the body fat out of storage, combust it as fuel, send some of that fat to the liver to become ketones, the brain is happy, and it becomes this wonderful, almost closed loop system. And at the end of all of this, you realize, wow, I don't need that many calories, or I certainly don't need as many calories as I thought I needed to not just sustain, my energy and whatever, but to thrive.
It sounds like you're describing the solution, and we're backing into the solution with the ultimate issue at hand here is our appetite and our eating patterns. And that's why, if you look at the 10 laws of the Primal Blueprint, you want to sleep, you want to get the regular movement, you want to get the intense exercise. All these things are contemplated back to, we're talking about losing excess body fat, the echoing of Dr. Ponzer's message is in my brain here, saying, look, all these diets and everything we're talking about, we have to look at the science that our calorie burning is constrained. If we consume fewer calories, store fewer calories than we burn, we're going to lose weight.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not that simple. And that's what the last several minutes of discussion are, is taking these periods of time where you're not eating, instead of snacking every hour and all the stuff we've been told to do was important or recommended. Now I think we can get a clearer understanding of what this is all about. There's no shortcut, but it is a very clear...
It's not a shortcut, it's just a lifestyle. It's just
Right.
an adaptation to a way of living that now hundreds of thousands, millions of people have found easy to embody, which is, to develop this metabolic flexibility, which allows you the luxury of going longer periods of time without eating and not getting hungry. And that sort of little voice in the back of your head going, yeah, this is cool. Every time I go skip a meal and I'm not hungry and I'm not uncomfortable and I have all the energy I want, every time I do that, I'm burning off stored body fat. I'm getting more lean. I'm getting ripped. I'm maintaining muscle mass. And oddly enough, interestingly enough, the same signals that are causing the genetic shifting, the turning on of certain genes to make certain proteins to take fat out of storage, are also causing the body to recycle amino acids more effectively to use for repair and building of muscle and making of enzymes, versus the sort of standard American diet way of eating, which was every couple of meals you'd have something to eat. You'd always be hungry because of the insulin swings. You'd have whatever excess protein you took in. You probably didn't handle that well because you didn't have these upregulating signals, so your body would deaminate the amino acids and you'd pee them out. All those things kind of clean their act up when you develop metabolic flexibility and when you get into this pattern of spending appreciable amounts of time not eating. And then, of course, when you're eating, you're enjoying every bite, and life is wonderful, and it's a great way of living that not a lot of people yet have tapped into.